Now, as many of you know, I humbly value and respect the graphic novel world. Comic books, manga, whatever thing you like in the spectrum of graphic novels, I respect its right to existence in its chosen form of entertainment media. And I wholeheartedly disrespect and do not acknowledge ignorant people online who like to claim that, quote unquote, this is why the comic book industry is dying, or this is why manga is better, because of how they feel, not anything based in reality. And I'm not really here to chastise them, but man, I probably will spank them one day. One day. However, this isn't one of those types of videos. In case you couldn't guess by the title, I kind of sort of made an attempt to understand the popularity of Mr. Morales post, the movie he had. Listen, I understand the comic book readers' issues, let's call them that, with people who think that Spider-Boi, and yes, I'm calling Mr. Morales Spider-Boi, so we can actually have a differentiation when it comes to monikers, albeit only for this video, versus Spider-Man, aka Mr. Parker himself. So listen, the real big question I want to bring up is, does Miles serve a purpose? Followed up by, does he need to have fanfare and material based on him when there are so many other Spider-Men like him who came before him that still hasn't gotten into the popular consciousness? But first, let me just talk about where the comic book people are coming from with their lack of understanding of his popularity or outright disinterest in him. It's very simple. Spider-Man has had 6 or 7 different incarnations, alterations and deviations. I'm putting them all together that I even know of. I mean 616, objectively part of the canonicity of the basic dimension that all Marvel Comics or the primary dimension universe descend from, 616. Fun fact, the MCU cinematic stuff is 1999.99. And no, I'm not sure if I'm missing a 9. Editors, get at this how you can. So look, I get why they're salt triggered, because there are so many others before him. In fact, within the same year that Stan Lee retired from being the EIC, they already had the Clone War saga. Essentially, a clone of Spider-Man, sometimes being good, sometimes being bad, but ultimately his Peter Parker-ness prevailed and he became good. Scarlet Spider coming into existence, and then dying and then resurrecting, etc., etc. Spider-Man alone has too many goddamn clones. Like, you think Wolverine is bad with shit. No. Mr. Parker wrote the book. Bare minimum, clone deviations, whether a full-on copy or altered genetic state, he's looking at about 10 in his immediate family or extended family, depending on how you perceive things when it comes to clones. Holy shit. It's ridiculous. Scarlet Spider has been held as a title by almost 5 different clones or non-Peter Parker Spider-Men. You don't see them in too many movies. At best, they're alternate color schemes, or they are one-time appearance or maybe 2-time appearance in Saturday morning type Disney shows, which have very little budget and are inherently just, they either suffer from good writing, bad premise, or, bad premise, good writing. That being said, let's not lie. There is one Spider-Man show that's so ridiculously terrible and is based off Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think they even canceled it and quietly stopped talking about it because they want people to look into the new prequel to Tom Holland universe MCU Spider-Man 3D cartoon show that they're making or is in development. Let me tell you. Oh my God. I'm not even mad about it. It should have died. Children should not be subjected to that. Spider-Man rarely has a bad children's show or cartoon show. That one took the cake and ran off with it and ate it in some dark alley. Ugh. But enough about that. Their reasoning is pretty sound. We already have other Spider-Men or Spider-Man-like characters, both in alternate dimensions and in 616. Some of them do or don't operate in New York. I can't remember. And they get no love, or they get no respect, or they get very little representation. So here comes the Puerto Rican black kid, or Black-a-Rican if you're real, and he immediately skips the line and gets a movie? He gets his own franchise or sub-franchise within a franchise? Something we really don't see, at least in the video game space, unless you're thinking about something like Final Fantasy VII, which is a sub-franchise or a franchise within itself. Yo, I get it. I truly do. Still his fan, but I get it. He was from a comic book line series that was meant to, quote unquote, make Marvel perceived as being more efficient. And even though the Ultimate line was always stated to not, quote unquote, replace the 616, ultimately, from what I'm told in that era when it was popping off, because, I'm a little kid at this time. I ain't even got all my, baby teeth out of my mouth yet. Shit, I still don't, which is kind of impressive, I guess. It was common to hear nerds state that it shouldn't be made popular because they're going to use it to replace the 616. It's also filled with gothic element stories. Yeah, let's use those words. Essentially what it means is relationships that sometimes go incestuous, or relationships that are genuinely disturbing and you would not expect from a PG-13 comic book. But to be fair, the world of Marvel was never strictly PG-13. Look no further than Ghost Rider when he first came out. It was basically a darker supernatural. Moving on. Let's move into perceptions. As I stated, the public perception of all these other Spider-Men is practically non-existent. Doesn't matter if it's the new guy, Chasm, who really isn't the new guy. In fact, he started this whole clone alternate Spider-Man shit because he's the original Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly. Or anyone else in that matter. Spider-Woman can't even keep up with him in any format. The closest we got was Ghost Spider. But Ghost Spider is not a Peter and is not trying to be Spider-Man or labeled Spider-Man like Spider-Boi labeled himself. I spell it with an I just because I think it looks cooler. So essentially, I can understand, even if you're fans of Spider-Man and the Spider-Man mythos, here's the new guy getting more attention and attraction. Well, he's only getting that attention because he's a minority. That's entirely possible or plausible. But here's what I'm gonna tell you. Nobody sat down with any analytical degrees or analytical and study authority and verbatim studied to find out, is this Spider-Man only popular because he is a minority? But is that the common perception? He picked up a lot of extra fans because minorities liked him? Yes. What I found a little bit distasteful is people looking at that like that's some type of a negative. There are some people who don't find out about certain things unless they're a minority. That's how life works. I've seen people on a bus and on a train say, hey, they got a new Spider-Man running around in Marvel? It's like, what? You mean that clone guy? No one don't even knows Ben Reilly's name. No. It's a kid. He's half black, half Puerto Rican. Oh, word? Well, that's interesting. He had word of mouth power. Yes, the movie made things that much more ridiculous. How do you top that? How do you stop that? Word of mouth is its own social media. Word of mouth is its own bridge into getting you into the zeitgeist of public consciousness. He got there. Ben Reilly didn't. Blood Spider didn't. I don't even know Blood Spider's name. Now, I guess the next thing would be, is it wrong? Or is it some form of ethnic nepotism? Is he a Nepo baby? I'm sorry, but that term is funny to me. Yes, I understand Nepo babies are real, but just the term is funny to me. And I'm gonna tell you just like this. Hey, listen. I don't know. I'm leaning towards no. I really am. But legitimately speaking, the answer is no. It's not wrong. It's not a negative about him. He's a victim of circumstances for popularity. We all know how things work. There are people who are famous and they're popular for doing something. And sometimes there'll be people connected to them who are their own form of famous or popular. Case in point, Billie Eilish, the most popular person in her family. But that doesn't mean Phineas is less of a guitarist and less of a musician. In fact, I'd say he's more of it. Billie writes, and Phineas does everything. He can act, he can write, and he can, perform. But Billie Eilish plays the ukulele. Shut the fuck up about the ukulele. Although I do think it is kind of funny she can play the ukulele. Not that I have anything against the ukulele. I don't want some ukulele collective coming from my head. But it's just funny that Billie Eilish could play the guitar, but her fucking personality and patience has her only playing the ukulele. But hey, more Phineas fans for Phineas. No Ferb. And that's where I am at currently. I acknowledge and I understand the fans of Spider-Man or comic books who don't get, look, this is just a rehash of someone in a different setting. Superman has Superboy, and there's a Supergirl. And technically there should be a Superwoman, but she's a villain, so we got Power Girl. Power Girl had a clone. Mind you, she only lasted for 3 months. Literally, she only existed for 3 months. Then DC forgot about her, like they do so many things that were technically interesting. She couldn't fly, though. And this is, Marvel's iteration of that. Spider-Man has, a child. He also has Iron Spider. They also have Chasm. They also have Scarlet Spider. They also have the other Scarlet Spider. They also have another Scarlet Spider. They also have symbiote-based Spider-Mans. Not going to get into those. I understand. I get it. I totally get it. His derivatives have derivatives. Venom has had 3 different users or 4 different users, but Venom also has anti-venom. It's crazy. And I understand it. But here's what I need to tell people who think like this. You need to not look at it as a negative. Remember, all things in Marvel is a gateway into some other thing. If someone buys a comic book because they saw Spider-Boi on the cover of it, one day they're not just going to buy Spider-Boi. They're going to go after regular old-fashioned Peter Parker Spider-Man. They're going to potentially deviate maybe into Iron Fist, Doctor Strange. Tastes evolve over time. But once you get somebody in, you don't keep them hooked with the same old thing. There's going to be other things, Don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as you've expanded a family. Getting mad at Spider-Boi for existing is almost tantamount to getting mad at a new baby being born into your family. You're not raising them. You're not feeding them. You're not changing diapers 24/7, 365. So you get to enjoy them when they're being adorable and, getting all the attention. And then the minute that diaper gets full, hand them back to their parents. That's just how I feel. And that's my 2 cents on Miles Morales, Spider-Man, aka Spider-Boi. Love him or hate him, more people love him than hate him.